Whoa, James. How you doing?
Wonderful.
I know. I like how when you speak, that little thing goes like around your head. Just wait for a couple people to come on.
Work was good today.
Oh, yeah. Closed on a house. Just got a contract 5 minutes ago for a house. That's what I was handling when I asked you to wait.
Oh, that's nice.
Got a contract. Got it sent off to the lender and the home inspector time and the title and got it all done and got someone tried to call and scam me. It's like, huh. But they knew all my credit cards. Every single one. So I have to cancel every single card. Nice, right? Then the number he called me on, I called back. And Jason, who is probably outsourced to somewhere, answered the phone. Credit Experian. I was like, what's Credit Experian? Oh, don't you know the credit bureau? Yeah. Well, the credit bureau isn't who you speak to cancel a card because I just did it online as you were talking to me. And then they hung up. Yeah. Knew every card, all the digits. First four of every card. Is that not what I'm playing?
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Ah.
So now I'm going to be credit cardless, but after being declared dead by the American Express, I felt it was necessary. Remember that? February 1st, 2020? It's the day my credit score went to an 8. So he said, first was Daniel. They gave me a case number and everything. Then it was Jason. And Jason said that someone was buying laptops on my eBay account. Well, I checked. They're not. So, thank you, Jason, for the information. I appreciate it. But, no, I really need a last name that is not so easy. I know. So, hi, everybody. I was just talking to my son because someone tried to scam me on my credit cards, but I literally locked them and asked for new ones as I was on the phone with the guy. So hopefully I'm okay. But a few years ago, I was declared dead by American Express, which is a whole other story for another day. And it took me a year to be undead. And I had a credit score of an 8 during COVID. It was horrid. Charlie going to be in trouble with the IRS short sale. I don't know if he is or not. So I had that video on, and then I got yesterday. We talked about. So James, I found some documentation that showed that Charlie short sale the home that he says he's lived in and owned since 2008. So he short sold the home, and then sold it to his father. But you're not supposed to sell to a family member or a friend because the bank is writing off $340,000. So the bank wrote off $340,000. So we had that video yesterday, and YouTube apparently took it down because I gave out private information, even though it's on Zillow and no one's living there. So I'll dispute it, see what they do. But that's literally why I don't put our podcast on here, because everything we say, they're like, you can't say that. What? I can't talk about real estate? How do you not talk about real estate by talking about neighborhoods and addresses? No one's living in them. So you're not doxing anyone. It's very odd. I don't know how YouTube makes any money at all. So, that being said.
By pretending that they're private? While selling people's information?
Yeah.
That's how they make money?
Hmm. Correct. So I'm answering the client's question. So, James, we all have questions.
Yes.
So, Charlie Adelson is in the reception center annex. What does that mean?
So at the reception centers, there are multiple units, and so when you look up an inmate, you can see which unit they're specifically at. So there's a main unit, there's an annex, and a work camp. And it'll tell you if you look up a particular inmate on the state website what particular one they're at.
Right,
Just
he's
because
in
he's
the
at the
annex.
annex, right? That just that might not mean anything at all.
Oh,
It's just there's so many inmates that go through a reception center that eventually they add an annex. The annex is actually in newer condition, so they actually try to funnel stuff through there. Um, but it might not particularly mean anything.
mm-hmm. So,
It
question.
might mean
What's their time frame in he is in administrative confinement. So what's the time frame
okay.
in administrative confinement in reception?
Um, well, from the last time you spoke with me, if he's still in administrative confinement, then it's
Yes.
for protection, and there is no set time on that.
Oh, there isn't. Okay.
The goal is, of course, to not have him in administrative confinement, but then it also becomes a matter of where do you put him, where you think he's going to be safe, considering a particular gang might be after him, which again might lead to him getting transferred to either a federal facility or moved out of state. And if that were to happen, you'd be able to see it on the state inmate lookup when it stops providing you a prison. Because the state only shows state facilities.
Yes.
So if it doesn't show anything outside of that, then he's no longer, he's been moved to a different facility outside the state of Florida.
Okay. So during administrative confinement, can Charlie talk on the phone?
Yes.
Can he buy stuff in a canteen?
Yes.
Can he receive mail?
Yes.
Can he have any visitors?
If it's for protection, if he's in administrative confinement for protection, yes.
Okay. It says no visitation right now.
Okay.
So who knows? But I mean, how long does it take for them to process, do their medical, take their blood, shave their head, which has already been happening? How long does that take?
A day.
Oh, it really doesn't take
Again,
long at all.
no. If
How long is
again,
the
if he's
average
still in
person
there,
in? How long is the average person in reception?
in a it's not a set time because again, it's not just the documentation, blood, all that stuff. They also have them do tests to
Psych
like
test, right?
determine. Yeah, sort of. They call it prism or something like that,
Mm.
where it helps determine someone's possible recidivism chances.
Mm.
They even have the lifers take it, even though there's no chance.
Yeah, well, would they do that for
Um,
appeal?
yeah, they still do it for appeal. But that all being said, it's really a matter of open spaces at other institutions and what
Okay.
institution he would qualify to be at. Because he's going to have to be at something that's allows at least close custody.
Okay, so there's a couple questions. First
Yep.
question is from SRA. Do a lot of COs wash out?
Yes, the majority I want to say it's like 60 to 70% of COs have less than 2 years of experience. Most people don't last 2 years. It was amazing. I lasted 5 years, and be totally honest. The issue is, and this is part of the reason why they're going to keep him in protective custody for as long as they can.
Why?
All the institutions in the state of Florida are severely undermanned.
Oh,
Dorms are supposed to have like 2 to 3 officers per dorm, and regularly dorms are left with only one officer. And they just sit in the
that's the
officer
way.
station, and if anything happens, they have to call for help and just sit there.
That's no different at the jail. The jail's supposed to have two. Like if you're in a female pod, there's supposed to be two females at all times, which makes sense because otherwise they just gang up on your ass and you're done.
Right. But they don't have the staffing for that, and so the majority of institutions, in order to try and meet the minimum requirements for what's supposed to be on staff, a lot of officers work 16-hour shifts, um, 4 to 6 days a week.
Yeah, you
Um,
worked constantly.
yeah, I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week when I was there. And if you refuse to work a mandatory overtime, um, right before I left, they started taking people's accrued leave away from them, which I didn't even think was legal. But hey, what do I know?
Well, remember, you lived on the property for a while too.
I did. They have staff housing, which is usually how they keep people as long as they do, because for the ones that have staff housing, your rent's only like $100 a month or something like that for like a studio apartment type situation. So the amount of money you save on that, you put up with a lot. COs can request to be moved around between prisons, but the only way to um, force a move is if an institution is shut down, and then they'll give you an option of you can be moved or you're just done.
So another question from Brady is, can other prisoners get to him if they choose to?
Um, Almost always, yes.
Even in confinement?
In confinement, I mean, it's the safest option for him. It's the hardest situation to get to him, but all it takes is an officer not doing their job right for someone to get to him. Because, like, in confinement, they take showers,
Yeah.
and inmates have to be escorted from the cells to the showers,
Right, I remember.
right? An officer is supposed to have their hand on an inmate, and the inmates are
Literally
supposed
on
to be
him?
cuffed. Yes, on his shoulder, like not aggressively, but just in
Right,
case
just
he.
like,
You're right.
yeah.
And they're supposed to be cuffed while they get walked to the showers.
Mm-hmm.
There have been multiple times in the state confinement situation where trying to speed through showers, inmates get taken out without cuffs on them. Inmates get doors opened accidentally from someone pressing the wrong button, and someone gets out. It's possible. It's just not as likely in confinement for anything to happen to them. It's the safest possible situation, but stuff still happens.
Okay, can COs be moved around between prisons? And
You can be temporarily moved for need, but you can't be permanently moved.
interesting. Okay, so here's another question. Late, so I don't know if this has been asked. Will he have a tablet in prison? And does he have one now, TV or books?
Um,
So
if
there's quite a few people coming on. For me, it's quite a few. But
right,
Charlie, is it still in administrative confinement? So that's what we're asking about to my son James, who until recently was a corrections officer for the state of Florida.
As far as I knew when I left, the policy was still that administrative confinement, you're not punished, quote unquote, because you haven't been seen by anyone for a punishment. You still have your tablet.
Oh, you do.
Yes, you do an administrative confinement.
So is that tablet the same brand and style that Leon County has, or you don't know?
I'm not aware.
But it's all kind of proprietary, right? It's not like it's a Kindle, like a Kindle brand.
Yeah, it is a subcontractor that the state uses. So I don't know if the county uses the same one, but
I'll have to
it's
look it
not
up.
like Kindle or anything like that. They're specially made.
Yeah, it has
Um,
to have some sort of proprietary security, right?
well, the thing is, the casing is completely clear, so you can
Oh,
see all the wires and
oh,
everything.
you can. That's cool. See, that's
Yeah,
super cool.
so that way it can pass through security.
Oh, a tad of echo. Oh, okay. Well, I'm using Firefox now, which seems to be a lot smoother than the Chrome. So I will step back from my camera a little bit. I'll just move back from the camera. It's probably I'm too close to it. Okay, so another questions. Do you know the cost to make calls on the tablet? The fees.
I don't. I know that the cost for most of the inmates didn't make calls like live stream calls. What they did was they sent voice and video messages. And the cost of those voice and video messages, it wasn't cents, it was dollars. I think it was like $3 to $5 just for a small voice message. Like it costs
Oh,
money.
James, they're saying the echo is on your end. So maybe
Hold on.
not talking to your phone so closely, maybe. Where are you?
Hold on one second.
Okay. Don't use speaker, maybe.
I'm turning you down
Oh,
because I think it's coming off of that. Hold on.
okay. Thanks. James has one of those phones that bend. So I don't even know. Let me know. Oh, I lost him. Let me invite him back. He should be able to come on. Oh, here he is.
Hello?
Are you there? Yes. Thanks. Let everyone let us know if that's better. Okay. So let me go back to some of the questions because they're really good and I don't have answers to them. Love James even with an echo. Well, that is very sweet, Brady. Thank you. And thanks for letting us know. Are promotions difficult for corrections officers? Are you there?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Promotions for correction officers.
Yeah. How difficult is it to be promoted?
Um,
Are you
from
okay?
officer to sergeant,
Yeah.
easy. Easiest thing in the world. It's almost an instant promotion.
Mm.
From sergeant to lieutenant, very, very difficult. It's easier to get from a sergeant to a captain than it is to get from a sergeant to a lieutenant.
Oh, really?
Because from sergeant to lieutenant is so difficult because lieutenants oversee the work camps and the work squads and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, an easier job, lower stress, so it's coveted. the people who get the lieutenant position will sit there. Because the thing is, so when you do retirement, it's based off of your highest accrued years. So what people will do is they'll spend 6 to 7 years maxing out their overtime hours at sergeant, making like 70, $80,000 a year, and then promote up to lieutenant and do nothing.
Do you guys still hear the echo? Because I don't, but
No, they do. Hold on.
they're saying maybe turn the volume. I was very disappointed that Wendy didn't spend time in jail. I'm really hoping, and maybe it's wrong, that she gets freaking like SWAT team kind of thing going into her house. I really do. Or Fernandez or wherever the hell she is. I hope that whenever they go get her, because I 100% believe they will, I hope it's a surprise like Charlie's was. I really, really, really do. Yeah, new steel bracelets. James, speak for a second.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I hear you. What's wrong, kid?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I hear you. I'm going to text you.
Hello.
I hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you
I think
hear
we're
me?
better now.
Okay, good. Bless it. Good Lord. Okay, go back. We were all disappointed that Wendy wasn't in jail. Facts. Okay. Deanie Masterson apparently gets to keep his hair, but Charlie's hair is shaved and his beard and that all nasty growth he had. Why do they in Florida shave their heads? Why do they shave their heads?
So for men, when they're initially brought in, they're shaved for uniformity.
So knock them down
Women
like
still have to be uniform.
Mm-hmm.
It's just their hair has to be able to be above the collar, so it has to be like in a ponytail or something that doesn't touch the collar. It's sort of like military rules. The quote unquote reason for that is like the shock to the system. You're going to follow the rules. You're going to be uniform, just like in boot camp for the military.
That's what I thought, to knock someone down.
The prisoners have access to controlled internet, not anything like YouTube. Not unless they're in certain positions which take time to get, where they might work in the library or something like that, can sometimes get access to that stuff, but they don't have open access to the internet.
Brady asks, when Charlie was in county, he had certain times he could make live calls. Is it the same in state?
On an actual phone,
Or his
yes.
tablet or however, yes.
On an actual phone, there are
irreversible.
certain times of the day.
Okay.
On weekends, it's whenever, generally speaking. On weekdays, there are set times, and there's a shutdown time when the phones get turned off. To do the recorded messages on the tablet, there's no set time for that. But to make an actual phone call on one of the prison phones, yes.
So, yes, they did for sure shave heads. Here it is. In South Carolina, because Murdaugh head was shaved, and he is even uglier with that head shaved. He's so gross. So, what are our thoughts on Donna and Wendy in the same trial? Probably the same as Siegfried and Catherine. I don't, if you live here, which I know a couple of you said you're local, then you know that our jury pool does not have the wherewithal to put someone to death let alone the wherewithal to do 2 convictions at once. I just don't think they do. And especially since they knew in Siegfried and Catherine's case, it was parents of the same children. I just, if it had been Siegfried and Lewis, probably. But having the mother and the father of the same children, they just don't have the wherewithal. I have a horrible situation going on right now that I'm not free to disclose, but it's someone I met recently, and they're going to be subject to law enforcement, at least I hope so. And even though the statute says the crime is clear, it's hard to get it's not Georgia Kappelman, it's a different person to press charges. The other party wants to press, there's several parties that want to press charges, but it's really, really hard when you have a young mother to do it. I just don't think we have the wherewithal in this county. Bunch of pansies here. Pansies, I say. So if you're going to commit a crime, no offense, it's a good place to do it. Still an echo, but don't worry about it. Well, thank you. Are smuggled cell phones an issue? I know in Leon County it is. James.
Smuggled cell phones are definitely an issue everywhere.
Are you texting other people while I'm talking to you, James? Is it like home? Okay. So they are. How do they smuggle them?
They get officers.
What?
They get officers to bring it in for them. Family members bring it in for them. Sometimes they have drones from people on the outside will fly it over an institution and drop it down into a field or into the rec yard.
Have you ever seen that? A drone?
Yeah. Every institution hosts AA groups, Alcoholics Anonymous, and different support groups. The civilians from that will bring them in. Cell phones get in so easy. We've had officers get arrested for bringing in cell phones, like by the boatload. It's really easy to sneak stuff into a prison. Disturbingly so. Because again, they're undermanned.
Money to bring in something illegal? I've never asked you this.
Yes, every officer gets offered. Anyone who says they've never been offered anything is lying. I never took anything because the consequence for me taking it is to go to prison. The consequence for them doing it, for the inmate paying me, is 30 more days in confinement, and they don't care about that. 30 days well spent.
No, I got asked when I was a nurse there at Leon County all the time, you're with an officer, what the hell is going on? Like, first of all, I don't like you. Like, I don't like any of you in here. So I can't, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You could have told from my attitude, like, I don't like you. I'm here because I want to do a job and get paid.
They see it as cheap, easy money because for like a cheap $100 phone on the outside, you get, I don't know, like $700 to $1,000 per phone.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's a lot of money to get a cell. Because a cell phone now, it's a smartphone. It's unlimited access to the internet. There are inmates who have social website profiles on Facebook and stuff like that.
Wait a second. How do they
like active
internet?
through the use of their cell phones. It's a cell phone, so with the phone signal.
Oh, it's a paid account. Someone's paying for the account.
Yeah.
That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. The officer's not the one paying for the account. They get those disposable ones. You can get like Walmart.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So if they
yes, they can pull the money from commissary to pay restitution to victims or child support owed or whatever any of that is. And they'll continue to pull until it's paid up.
Oh, well, do they take
yes, they will.
Or they take all of it?
They will take all of it if they have to.
whatever it's got to be.
I like it.
The state is going to get its money. I promise you that much.
Imagine the mental health of Donna, Harvey, and Wendy. Sucks to be them. I believe Wendy is the one. So apparently, James, Donna Adelson, Charlie's mother, who's still, we don't know where she is at Leon County Jail. We don't know if she's in observation for her own protection in a little turtle suit. We don't know. So she has attempted to make phone calls, and there are quite a few blocked calls. So someone is blocking from the outside. We hypothetically believe that it's her daughter, Wendy, who has had, if anyone has discipline in this family, it's Wendy. Because the others do not have discipline at all, which is why they're in jail. So, but we were talking about what's the mental health of Wendy. I think Wendy, her mental health has to be waning. She was a stronger person to begin with than Charlie, but I do think hers is waning. And it has to be. You have to be constantly worried. Is it gonna drop? Is it gonna drop? Is it gonna drop? It just has to. There's too much chatter. Georgia let go of those 67 phone calls and release them to the public. She could have charged for them, but she didn't charge for them. They were free, and there's a reason for that, and it's to put pressure on the people on the outside. It's the only reason, because they could hold all this data until court and then release it after. There's no rule that it has to be released right now. All they have to do is ask the judge, seal this, and the judge would seal it. So it was done for a reason. In my opinion, I'm not an attorney. Let's go. Are there tribes or gangs in state prison? What is the most dangerous gang?
There are. The thing with Florida, though, is the most common ones are Bloods, Crips, MS-13s, and Latin Kings, or at least at the institution I worked at, those were the most common. MS-13s and Latin Kings are both Hispanic. Bloods and Crips tend to be black, and then you had the Aryan people, but that was, you could throw a dart at a dartboard and pick a name. The names of the Aryan ones were constantly changing.
Why is that?
Bloods and Crips in Florida were not recognized by the national sections, so they weren't considered as legitimate. It didn't mean they still weren't criminal gangs. It just meant that they weren't as organized as other states, like in California. And throughout every gang, you had subsections. There were different subsections of the Bloods that, formed over this or that leadership stuff. The most dangerous is probably MS-13s.
You're starting in the beginning. Thank you, Thunder Queen. Appreciate it. So Wendy had the most to gain. She should have her own trial, 100%. I think they learned that with the combined trial, and then Siegfried was quickly convicted, and Catherine had a hung jury because of, and let me scroll here, mentor lawyer who is an attorney here in Tallahassee. He's an appellate attorney. I know he does some insurance work. He does some other things. The jurors said she could not put both parents in jail. Not everyone is as cold as me. James, could you do it? Could you put parents in jail?
Could I put my parents in jail?
Not your parents. Obviously, you could do that. But any parent. Could you put, if you are on trial for like this, it was a conspiracy. Siegfried, apparently unalived Dan Markel. I don't know what I can say on YouTube or not before they take down my content. So I'm not quite sure anymore. And between the eyes, basically, pew, pew, could you put those two people in prison or on death row? Do you?
Yes.
I could too. I don't have a problem.
I mean, the way I see it, and they're all adults, they're all responsible for their own actions, and your children did something stupid and you covered for them, you're responsible for that.
And I don't know. I go back and forth on the whole death penalty thing. I think in certain states, because it happens in less than maybe 12 years or 14 years. But overall, I just think it's a waste of time and money because it just doesn't happen. Like, why in California that Peterson is still on death row? Why? They're not going to.
Well, I mean, some states like Florida and Texas put in an express lane for it, so it actually
that's
does happen.
different. But I think in some states, like, it's just literally the only thing is you're controlling contact because on death row you get so little
some
contact.
states. The thing about the death penalty is some states have it because the populace of the state want it, but the government in charge doesn't.
Nope.
And so it stays in limbo, where like you've got people on death row, but ain't nothing gonna happen to them.
So Siegfried is out in Stark, from what I know, which is where our believe death row is in Florida. I don't know. Is there two over there? There's Stark and then another one.
The two facilities that house male death row inmates in the state of Florida are Florida State Prison, which is the only prison in the state of Florida that's actually called a prison by the state, and Union Correctional Institution in Union County.
Where is the Florida State? Because that's where Siegfried is. Where is that one? Stark?
It might be. It's right near Union. They're not far from each other. Hold on. Is it Rayford?
Rayford.
It's in Florida State Prison's in Rayford, Florida.
Yeah. Which is right outside of Stark. I thought it was right outside of it. Hold on.
Yeah.
Because someone said it on here. Well, no, he's in Rayford, and I'm like, it's like 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I thought. Lake Butler. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, Florida State Prison, Union CI, and the Medical and Reception Center are all right next to each other in a little triangle.
Yeah, Rayford's north of Gainesville. How can we find out if Donna's doing an observation? Stay tuned for January 9th. That's the only way. There's no, I checked again today, there's no document that has been sent to Donna where if you look on some of the older documents in the case file, it'll say what unit she was in or pod, like E171, something like that. There's been nothing sent to her since before the last search warrant, so we don't know where she is. But January 9 we'll know when she comes in for case management, if she can walk and talk. Yes, Yank, it would be less expensive in a lot of ways, but no one in this county, and I mean no one, I am no one. Very few people will put a mother and a daughter. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It just isn't. And I think Rashbaum, who is Charlie Adelson's attorney, saying, the jury pool, or Charlie himself saying everyone here is against him. No, they're not. Again, I post something on Living Tallahassee, which is a Facebook group I founded and started. It's 45,000 people. Very few people respond. You can look at all the insights, which tells you the reach. And I do it on purpose because I want to know, like, what is the context of Tallahassee and Charlie Adelson? They don't care. People don't care. It's an older case, and they just don't know. So, let's see. Can Donna receive calls now? Well, someone, I forget who it was, whose page it was, did get her a record of the calls, and she has made calls out. many calls have been blocked, so she can receive and have calls made. But we believe that Wendy is blocking her calls. Yeah, convicting a mom and the maternal grandmother who, let's face it, whether we like it or not, that maternal grandmother is the one that raised those two boys, because Wendy is off with Tova Walsh or whoever she's with at the moment. And they're the ones who babysat. They're the ones who took care of those two boys. And it would be very hard. All those two boys have to do is get on the stand and say, I no longer have a dad or a mom. And no one will get convicted. Do guards ignore cell phones if everyone is behaving?
No, that's one thing. Cell phones are one thing that, generally speaking, they have zero tolerance with. They will do everything in their power to get cell phones out.
It's for their own protection, right?
Yeah, there was an incident in, I want to say it was South Carolina, where an inmate used a cell phone, and the next day, an CO from that institution had his house shot up.
Stop it.
By his friends on the outside.
Oh.
Cell phones are how they do their outside illegal business, and so therefore, especially the gangs. I saw one person asked what MS-13 is. It's a Mexican gang that's connected to drug cartels in Mexico.
They just had 2 car full of gang members arrested today in Leon County. And it was a fluke. It was just an absolute fluke. They heard some chatter and found one of the cars. The guys all had AR-15.
A lot of the gang members they arrest along the Texas and California borders are MS-13s.
The fact that no officers were killed today in these 2 takedowns is an absolute miracle. It really was. One guy tried to fight a canine. Well, let's face it, those dogs are amazing. So would it be possible for Charlie to pay a guard to help him escape?
It's possible. There's been multiple instances in the past of guards helping people escape. It's very difficult to escape a prison, though, if you're a close custody inmate. There's so many protections in place.
Work camp's different, right?
Work camp's easier to escape, but the farthest anyone got recently it was escaping was down in South Florida, and the officers just weren't paying attention. That dude he got out of the final gate and was caught by the post vehicles that drive around the institution. And at one institution, 2 inmates actually did successfully escape and were captured a month later because they were idiots.
Okay.
They had people on the inside at the courthouse that changed their release date in the system. So they got out early. But when someone gets out, the victims and the families of the victims get notified.
Right.
So when it was years, so many years before they were supposed to get out, the family called the prosecutor. And the prosecutor realized what happened, and they had already been gone for weeks, though. They had been released already. But the inmates were idiots and decided to spend their free time in Panama City, an hour and a half away from the institution they escaped from, partying, because they thought they had got a clean break.
How much longer will they get time-wise when they try to escape? If they already have life, there's not much you could do. But
yeah, if they already have life, then it doesn't matter. They just are held in even more secure facility. If it's not life, I think it's like 10 years added on. And yes, I have been seriously scared. The institution that I worked at, Franklin CI, my first year there, it had a massive riot that literally destroyed 3 whole dorms. And we had police, rapid response teams from all over the state come there. It's snipers throughout the whole institution. It was legitimately terrifying. Not in the way that I thought I was going to get hurt, but that it would get bloody and it would get bloody quick.
And what happened? You never told me.
The people in charge of the situation let it go for longer than it should have gone, but eventually they gave the rapid response teams approval to move in, and the second they flew one flashbang in the dorm, they immediately gave up.
So if you're just watching with us, thank you for watching. This is my son, James. I'm Patty Wilson, and we call the show Patty's Playhouse because I have a radio show called Patty's Playhouse. So I'm not very creative. I just keep the same method going. But James was a Florida correction officer, so he's on twice now. And he's come on to talk to us about what life might be like for the correction officer, as well as Charlie behind bars, because we, typically talk about the Adelsons. So Charlie is now in Northwest Reception Center in an annex. So in the beginning of the show, we were talking about what might be like that, why Charlie's hair is still shaved. Can he talk on the phone? So speaking of talking on the phone, can we get those records of his phone calls the way we do here with the county?
I have no clue because that's not something I've ever dealt with. I know that the officers will listen to his phone calls.
Right.
They get screened. All phone calls get randomly screened, quote unquote randomly screened. It's supposed to be at random, but the officers just pick who they want to pick.
Oh. So I met a guy at a Christmas party about a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, maybe. And he's worked for DOC, which is Florida's Department of Corrections, for 28 years in networking. So I had tons of questions, right? So I went back to school in January, if you don't know, for cybersecurity. And so he and I sat, his partner was right there, but she listened. I was like, I need all this information. But they have a whole team in Department of Corrections that does forensic analysis on mobile phones, not only phones for crimes committed within the facility, but future crimes. Like they just analyze the phone calls and the tablet data. I was like, that would, to me, I love real estate, but that would be my primo job. I would love that. Just sit and love it. It'd be crazy. The shit you must hear. So how many skinheads are in Florida, Aryan gang? You mentioned them earlier.
Just at this point, the way the Florida prisons are now, if you can be in a gang, you're in a gang. And most of the white people stick together because, because most white people aren't accepted in Blood, Crips, Latin Kings, or MS-13s or anything like that.
That doesn't seem
I actually did know one or two white people who were in the Crips, which was weird.
Is it because we don't speak Spanish?
Most inmates don't really care about, public perception.
Well, I mean, if we're loyal,
they really only care about surviving and making money, and so, that's
so are you still of the belief with Charlie Adelson that his life will be longer in prison than some of us would have thought because he has money and they want the money? So he'll be blackmailed.
Well, considering they have him in administrative confinement, I would say that they're fully of the belief that there's a legitimate threat. Because if there wasn't, they would have already moved him into regular pop.
In some of his calls to his mother and to his friends, whoever these people are, it sounded like he wanted to be in protective environment. Like he thought, or he had heard that he would have more privileges in a confinement or protective custody than he would in general population.
To a certain extent, you do. You get your own cell. You don't have to share with anyone. You still get the same access to everything else.
Oh, you do. So you're in the cell. How many hours a day, James, are these people in a cell?
The only time you ever come out is for a shower or for a rec, which is like an hour.
Oh, really?
Food is brought to you.
Right. So the same way with
Everything's
county.
brought
What
to you.
about a job? They don't have jobs. They don't help support their freaking room and board.
Not administrative confinement.
Well, outside of that.
Yeah, there are people who have jobs. Orderlies.
Oh, they do.
Generally, the jobs you want are to be an orderly for an administrative officer.
Uh-huh.
Because if you get that, you tend to get special perks.
Who is cooking the food in a prison?
So when I was there, it was still run by the state, but I think they contracted out to Aramark after I left. But I still believe Aramark runs it and pays for the food, and it's their supervisors, but the inmates still do the actual cooking.
That's the way. When I worked at Leon County Jail, that's how it was. They had civilians, I would call them, civilians running the show and counting tools and that cooking ware. But the actual cooking was done by the inmates.
Yeah, that's the way it's done there too.
Did you ever eat the food at the prison?
Say again?
Did you ever eat food while you worked at the prison?
No. I would never.
I wouldn't either. You would see some deputies, like depending on a certain day, the correction officers at Leon County, it's run by the sheriff, so they're deputies. And you would see some of these guys be like, it's stew day. And I'm like,
I'll put it to you this way. Recently, in the last few years, the state of Florida put like millions of dollars into improving the food in prisons.
mm-hmm.
And some officers have been known to eat the food. Most of them, what they'll do is in the off kitchen hours, when the kitchen shut down, they'll go in and cook themselves something up. Which is, of course, not allowed, and you can get in trouble if you do that.
I had no idea.
So anyone who does that would never admit to it.
Why would you get in trouble? Because it's inmate food, it's theft?
It's inmate food. It's not for you. No touchy.
Well, I didn't eat it. I either brought food. I worked night shifts, so we either ordered in, which there were even that side of town, there were a lot of delivery services even 20 years ago, or I brought food, or I just didn't eat. I didn't even have the coffee. Like, I wouldn't have any of it.
If things got really disorderly as a prison, they'd get like a special menu week. I don't know. One time they got donuts. This is ridiculous.
If you were, say, a Muslim or a Hasidic Jew, do they try and follow that diet for your religious belief?
So if you are on a religious diet, they have a special menu just for you, but it's uniform with all the religions. It's very basic. It just makes sure that falls in under any possible religion.
What about people who are having struggles with their gender? What happens to a jail or a prison?
You go to the facility with what your lower parts are at current time. So
if you've had a full surgery and you
go to the finished products location.
What about continuing your hormones?
They'll continue your hormone therapy if a doctor deems it necessary for your health. Because if you've taken hormone therapy for such a long time, to stop it randomly could be considered detrimental to your health.
Oh, would it?
Yes.
So based on some phone calls, Charlie was complaining about blood all over the walls, shit on the floor. So he finds it's odd there's no cleaning staff in the county jail. He's in a county that takes care of these incidences. Any comment, James? Who cleans
I
the
can't speak
cells
for
when
county.
people, huh? Well,
I
in
can't
the
speak for
states,
county.
in the state, who cleans the cells when it's like
Cells are cleaned by inmates, and there are inmates who are specifically trained on cleaning up
human
fecal
waste?
matter and blood.
What about other emissions?
Oh, it's all the same thing. You're
Same.
trained on the chemicals to use to clean it, like bleach and stuff.
Okay. But yeah, I'm curious why when it's been a long time and I keep repeating myself, but when I worked at Leon County Jail, it was not like that. Now I know they are, overcrowded to some degree, but it wasn't like that. However, the population at the jail, there is a lot more mentally ill than there were then. There's a lot more homeless who could possibly be schizophrenic, could be withdrawing from medications that were not prescribed, heroin, all of that. And
The mental
so,
health situation in the state of Florida is probably the worst of almost any state in the country.
we don't know because we don't live in other states. However, I don't know.
No, so in mental health funding, Florida is 49th out of 50.
Oh, it is.
So, and they've lowered the funding to mental health hospitals in the state of Florida that are state funded, and actually redirected that money into mental health facilities in the prisons, because so many mental health patients are ending up in prison anyway.
Well, Leon County has started to arrest for trespassing. So the homeless or unhoused or whatever makes you feel better, people who don't have a home and just want to live on our sidewalks, they are starting to arrest them, because they're hanging out in parking lots. I had police scare me the other night coming around looking for somebody. I don't know who it was. The alarms went off. And so you do see in the arrest reports in the morning, obviously they're homeless. And because of that, societal behavior isn't exactly what we would consider normal. And they just do whatever they want. Or whatever they can. I don't know. I have no idea because I don't understand it. So, but their population has to be a more, how do I say it? Mentally deteriorated. Is that the word, James? Like there's obviously deterioration in society or social manners. I don't know. So I just do whatever. But I find it hard to believe there's blood on those walls. Maybe stained? I don't know.
Yeah, stains happen all the time, but I find it hard to believe they're just leaving blood and crap too, just because.
Well, AIDS, I just can't imagine that they would do that. I can't imagine as many times as the sheriff is sued that he would do that.
Yeah, and sheriffs get sued constantly.
They're sued constantly. And that's something like, if I got a disease from being in the cell, I'm going to be a rich criminal. Because they didn't maintain activities of daily living. You got to keep it clean, if nothing else. You're gonna have bigger problems.
Not to mention there are auditors that come in regularly.
Mm-hmm. So James answered the cells in a clean state. He did answer the food. Neither of us have eaten jail or prison food, so we don't know. Praise the Lord.
Again, they just put millions of dollars into making the food better, or at least what they said was better, and the inmates seemed at the time to enjoy it more.
So after the Parkland, Sonny says, after the Parkland fiasco where the school was shut up, forget the DP people are too soft for sorry losers. It's not a deterrent anyway. Does a criminal even consider it before a crime? And I will tell you that answer is no.
They don't consider it before a crime, but I will tell you that there's a lot of inmates trying to get off of death row. There's no one trying to get on it.
True. But I think the self-awareness is diminished and they don't believe they will get on it. It's like Charlie Adelson, whatever kind of, he almost flunked out of dental school, blah. He ended up being a periodontist and he had no self-awareness. Even to this minute, I bet he has no self-awareness that he is an actual felon and a criminal and will never walk free.
Most sociopaths don't have any self-awareness, or they don't think they're doing anything wrong. That's how you know they're crazy.
It's just insane. I don't know if I can answer this. We can't listen to cell calls until after both sides. I believe that is true, but they don't have to release them at all. And they are. They do not have to. They could ask, like when Attorney Rashbaum went and asked for the jury to be polled. That was sealed by the judge at the request of the defense. I don't know why. Seems ridiculous, but James, were you ever in an emergency squad where you all wore all the pads? If you were, you never told me, and I'm your mother.
I was DART certified, which does wear the pads. So there's varying levels. There's DART, RRT, and SRT. DART are on-duty staff. They're meant to contain an incident. If it starts, then the DART team is called up of people currently working. It's a 5-man team. They go in, they try to keep the situation contained, and the rapid response team is activated. The rapid response team is 14 people. Those people are on call. They have to live within a certain distance from the institution, and if they get called in, they have to come in immediately and control the situation. And the SRT is like snipers and stuff.
So can you imagine being Donna's age? She's 73. She'll be 74 on February 5th. It's my sister's age, so that's why I remember it. I just remember birthdays for whatever weird reason. And your father's age, too. I mean, your father's birthday, too, James. Can you imagine being her age and shape in there for a month? No. That's why I'm going January 9th. I thought she deteriorated, at least visually, from her Miami to the transfer up to Leon County. I thought she did. But I wasn't up close and personal. She just looked so thin. So James, when someone's in confinement like that, how long does the state of Florida keep them in? Where they really don't see anybody, no contact.
Again, it depends on why you're in confinement. If it's for personal protection, it's until they can guarantee your safety, whether it be by transferring you out to another institution or
we mean for your self-protection because you're wearing one of those suits, those turtle suits.
Oh, for the turtle suits?
Harm yourself. How long
if it's for self-harm, it's until the psych evaluator clears them.
How often does not these observers, okay, what we learned in Donna's hearing was Dr. Zap never really saw Donna. It was just other people, and then they interpret that information to the physician, which I wouldn't want my license to be like that, but I'm not a psychiatrist. How often are they actually seen by a shrink? No offense. How often are they seen?
So they have nurses with them all day, every day. but actual psych, there are, uh, at least on the state level, we'd have an actual psych person in like twice a week.
Mm.
That a psych nurse specializing in that field would keep the psychiatrist regularly updated um on who they needed to see and when. So usually about twice a week.
What else says I'd rather be executed than spend 45, 50 years in prison without parole? James, you said in your last show with your mom, you said that they just like live their life. They go to their cell, they hang out, they develop a culture, right? Of survival.
Yeah, that becomes your home. There are people in prison now who, when they're about to get out, will start acting out because they don't think they can handle life on the outside. We had one inmate who was getting released, and he was having like a whole breakdown in the van to the Greyhound bus station, saying he couldn't handle it, that he was just going to commit another crime because he didn't want to be on the outside. Like,
what was the
in
thing he
prison,
couldn't handle?
in prison, everything is taken care of for you.
Mm.
Everything is settled. Everything is uniform. Everything is structured. You don't have to worry about anything. Yes, it sucks if you have connections on the outside because you can't be with them. But if you were already a loner or you had no connections, everything is taken care of. You don't have any bills. You don't have any. You don't have any responsibilities. It's just you wake up, you go, you eat, you come back, you watch TV, and that's it.
3 hots and a cot.
For some people who don't have anything on the outside, that is a lot.
Hey, Beach, what link do we need to share to Rash? Let me know. Is a correction officer on their feet most of the shift, James? Or is there a lot of walking?
It depends on the shift. If it's day shift, yes. You're walking around to escort people to chow. You have to be walking around with them during rec times. You have to escort them to their jobs, any appointments they have, stuff like that. If it's night shift, no. It's 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, you're supposed to do a walk or on the floor. But again, they're severely understaffed. So you've got one officer in there. So that quote unquote 30-minute check is you just looking through the window.
So, what was I going to ask you? Someone's saying jail calls are more expensive in prison. I think so too. I think they can't maintain that level of cost for someone who's going to be in there for so long. How do you hide a cell phone, James?
So a variety of ways, and it depends on the cell phone in question. We found one cell phone that was literally the size of a USB stick. That small.
Wow.
It's very easy to hide those.
I need to know.
You had to like use a needle to get the right number when you were dialing a number on it.
Where does one find that?
But so what they'll do sometimes is they'll slowly like carve into the wall like a little hole, and they'll put a cell phone in the hole in the wall and then cover it up with toothpaste because the walls are painted white to try and hide it. They'll hide it in their mattresses. They'll hide it in their pillows. A lot of inmates learn how to sew in prison, so they'll rip open the pillow casing, put the cell phone in the pillow, and then re-sew it shut. That's why the institutions started getting handheld, like metal detectors to run over all the pillows and mattresses. They'll hide them in the bathrooms. You eventually get to pry up some of the metal parts and you hide it inside that. If you're asking how it's hidden when it's coming in, the officers who bring it in will bring it inside like their food. Um, you have people who will bring it
Did you
in
have
on
to walk through it?
visitation.
Did you walk through a metal detector when you entered the prison?
Everyone has to walk through a metal detector, but the thing is, um, you had people who would like put um, faux bottoms on like metal cans
Oh.
to sneak stuff in.
That's
So
just not
they
smart.
added X-ray machines, which if you're not looking very carefully, you can get something by. And again, during a shift change, when you got 20 people rushing through, stuff gets passed. You had visitation, people would do it. Everyone who comes through visitation gets patted down, but there's only so much patting you can do before it's sexual harassment. Um,
Do you think that's why Leon County has ended in-person visitation?
I think that's one of the reasons. So when COVID happened, um, when it initially started, everyone, everyone in the state, even the state institutions, ended in-person visitation,
Uh-huh.
and they were very reluctant to bring it back. Not because of COVID, but because there was, not as much contraband being brought in. It was beautiful for administrative staff. You didn't have as much stuff being brought in. You didn't have to worry as much. You didn't have to put as many resources into opening up the visitation area during the weekends. Um, but yeah, it requires staff to open up that visitation area to do the pat searches on everyone coming in. You got to have staff there, usually 4 to 5 officers in visitation at any given time. Um, because it's not like in TV where there's a glass window or anything in between you. It's it's open area. It's just one giant empty room. Everyone's sitting at tables. We've had instances of inmates starting a fight in visitation. Um, so you want to have plenty of officers on standby.
So, okay, I have a question. My little knowledge of cybersecurity for the last almost a year. You're saying that they could use cell phones, but there is a way to track cell phone signals coming out of an institution. It's easy, actually. So why don't they do that?
Um,
To find the contraband. I mean, it's really easy to find that out.
it, it's technically easy in theory, but having the people on hand that know how to do it at all times at any given time of the day is not as easy.
Okay.
So a lot of institutions have switched to using cell phone jammers on institutional grounds to sort of handle that issue. But even then, there's areas where the cell phone jammer is not going to work. There are pockets like we had an auditor come in that you know uh, federal auditors, stuff like that. They're allowed to bring their cell phones in. Wardens, stuff like that. They're allowed to bring their cell phones in. We had a warden come in to an institution that had a cell phone jammer. He was looking. His phone obviously wasn't working because of the cell phone jammer. And an inmate literally walked up to him and said, "Stand over there. Your cell phone will work." If there's a way to get through it, they will do it.
Aw, I don't know your notifications for this channel aren't working. I have no idea. But I'll look it up tomorrow. I'll keep a note. YouTube didn't like my show yesterday where we talked about Charlie Adelson's home on Will Harbor. At 9 minutes and 3 seconds, they told me I violated their terms. YouTube's terms have got to be as long as the Holy Bible. Words, who knows? Who knows? We used to put our radio show up. It's a radio show. I pay for licensing of music. I have a license to play music on a radio show. The radio station has a license to play music. And yet, YouTube would silence our show because we played music. They would ask for the certificate. I would send their certificate, and they said, no, we don't care. So YouTube, which is owned by Google, does whatever they want. So whatever happened yesterday, I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet because I had to sell houses today, which I was very excited about. And they said, like, I was doxing Charlie. Charlie's in prison. He cannot be doxed. The house is for sale on Tortugas. The one on Whale Harbor, what I was pointing out was the fact that on the stand, if you go back and watch his testimony, he said he owned the home since 2008. That is technically true. He bought the home in 2008. For whatever reason, he was having a hard time paying his bills about 2013. He owed about $701,000 with all the legal fees and the Liz pendant fees, and, everything that a bank likes to tack on when you miss a couple payments. They had a whole lot of money onto the bottom line. So it's somewhere in the thing about $701,000. He got a final judgment in 2013. In December 2013, Daddy Warbucks, aka Harvey, started a new LLC. The LLC was called FL Florida 2518, also the name or the 911 address is what we call it. It's not the real legal address, it's the 911 address, 2518 Whale Harbor. Or we'll call it Ailway Arbor Hay for YouTube. Maybe they won't figure it out. And Daddy gets an LLC. Home is listed as a short sale. You can see the photos on Zillow from 2014. Daddy, who is the only agent for FL 2518, is now the owner. There's what's called a short sale affidavit that the seller must sign and the buyer must sign. It's from Fannie Mae. It's pretty uniform. On the affidavit, which I shared yesterday, it says that you are not selling to someone you are related to. Because the bank, in this case, Bank of New York Mellon, it's BNY Mellon on Twitter, in their social media, they were forgiving the difference. So if you sell the home, you owe $701, you sell it for $337, that difference is written off as bad debt. The bank doesn't want to do that. But they also don't want to own the home and they don't want to foreclose on it. Some people are smarter than others. Other people's are just dirty. So Daddy, under FL 2518, takes possession of the Ailway Arbor A home. And so it could be construed as lying on the affidavit. It could be construed as possible mortgage issues, fraud, odd-fray. I don't even know what I could say. Fraud on the mortgage. Who knows? But that's what we were talking about yesterday with Charlie's house. And I've been doing a little bit more research today. I was actually selling new homes today. I'm going to continue to do the research and see what I can find. The statute of limitations used to be 5 years, but President Obama extended it to 10 years. So that 10 years ends May 24th, 2024, because that's when the LLC took possession of the home from Charlie, who was a single man at the time and is still. And what's the likelihood he's going to stay single, James? Will some fool but marry him in prison?
Oh, almost absolutely. You know how many pen pals inmates get? It's insane. They'll talk to 10 women at once, give them all a bunch of crap, just so they'll bring stuff in, Mary. Oh my God. There were inmates who would talk to both men and women. Because if you're a man who talks to male pen pals, even if you're straight, but on paper you're saying you're gay, they'll still give you money. It's not like you actually have to do anything. The state of Florida doesn't do conjugal visits.
How long do you think it will take to get Harvey's data off his iPad and iPhone? My question is, How does Harvey have a phone from 2012? James, how often do you change your phones? I know how often I change mine.
I change my phone about every year.
So, I mean, he may have had, I know Scott, my business partner, has Apple products from that long ago. And I don't know if they know the serial numbers of, say it was former phones. Could they, I would think that they could get search warrants just for the phone, even if he didn't own it, right? I don't know. That's a good question. I have to ask an attorney because I'm not one. Charlie, what will he do when he runs out of money to pay the extortionist? Because the other home on Ortugaste is not sold. And I have to speak in Pig Latin because of YouTube. Because it's crazy.
If he run out of money, his life worth nothing, and then he's just a dead man walking.
Really?
I mean, it might take a while to get to him, but eventually they'll get to him. They hold a grudge.
If you could repeat yourself, James, why do they shave men's hair but not women?
I mean, they shave men's hair for uniformity. Again, prisons, especially reception centers, are sort of treated like military boot camps. It's like the shock and awe uniformity. You're going to follow the rules. The women do still have a dress code with their hair that they have to follow. You're not shaving like the men are.
So Yank says, but I did have a patient who was a prison guard and was knifed by an inmate and ended up going on disability.
Yeah, I know a few people who stuff like that happened to. It's unfortunate when it happens.
Well, thank you. Tennis Girl says, by popular request. So happy for you to take time for us, James. He is. He's a good kid, by the way. If you don't know, he's my son, and he is a good kid. And we always laugh. Like James and I, we laugh a lot. Don't we? James. He's not. Are you being quiet or were you muted? So what else says you're very interested in the timing of the May 2014 short sale and how they moved property back to Charlie? They haven't. They haven't. The home is still in the LLC. Still in the LLC. So, are you there, Jamie?
I'm here. What'd you say?
I asked you a question.
I didn't hear it.
I was complimenting you, James.
Oh, thank you.
So
That's rare.
The Broward home on the one we can't name because of YouTube says that I'm pretty sure it said it is still in the LLC name, but I'm going to look it up right here. So James, let's talk about more questions while I look this up.
Well,
does James have a guess as to where Charlie would be assigned? It was not asked, Tennis.
Again, there are institutions that specialize in housing inmates who are in protective custody. Wakulla Correctional Institution has a set of dorms just for that, but they're open bay, and I'm not sure with him being a lifer in close custody if he would qualify for it. They don't publicly state which institutions house those areas for security reasons, obviously, so I couldn't tell you.
So with the short sale, I have not had a chance to find his email address, but I will. I hope something would come of it. I don't know. It just may be a way to pressure Harvey, Daddy Warbucks. But I just looked it up on the Broward County Property Appraiser, and it is still owned by the LLC. And the LLC, let me look that up. So, James, when someone gets out of prison, you would take them where? Where'd you take them?
You take them to the closest Greyhound bus station. Or the family member can come pick them up, but those are the two options.
Why Greyhound?
Sometimes if they have charges from outside areas, they'll get picked up by other departments.
What do
which
they get to leave with? What do they get to leave with?
They generally have a set of clothes that are mailed to them from whoever they have on the outside. If they don't have anyone on the outside, donated clothes are given to them. And then depending on their financial situation, they'll get like a gift card with like $150 on it. It's not actually a gift card. It's some company that does it, but it's like $150.
So I did double check. The LLC is owned by Daddy Warbucks, whose apartment is blank. We all know where they live. And let's see when they added Charles to it. They added Charles to the LLC, I think in 2015. They changed the mailing address. I'm reading the addendums, I'm sorry. They didn't even pay, like, it was Sunbiz, which is our corporate, the Secretary of State maintains all the corporation docs. In 2000 and, where is this? 18, he wasn't on, let's see, 20. So Daddy owned it until, here he is. That was the Alton Road. At some point, maybe this year, I'm looking. Not until 2020, am I right? 2022, did they add Charlie to the LLC? Yeah, it was 2022 on the annual report with Sunbiz. Did they add Charles J., we know his last name, as manager, but he's not the owner. The owner of the LLC, which means the owner of the property, is Dr. Harvey Jerome. That's who owns it. So Daddy bought it from his kid using a short sale and signed an affidavit. Both parties have to sign, the buyer and the seller. My question is to the title company. I'm really close to calling them, if they're still open, and saying, how did you not know that Daddy and son sharing the same last name? It's not like James and I have the last name. How did you not know that you were allowing a father and a son to sign that affidavit? And you went through and closed it. You didn't ask questions. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I have real big questions on that. I'm going to call my girlfriend who owns a title company tomorrow and ask her. Do you have a guess as to where Charlie is going to be assigned? Because you said it's going to be close security.
Yeah, again, he is a closed security inmate, so that's a security rating. So there are only so many institutions that are set up for closed security inmates. And so it's got to be one of those. And then in those institutions, there's a certain amount of them that are set up to take inmates who are in protective custody.
Well, that money's going to go fast. The man spent $7,000 on phone calls. So that money, you're right, but he really thought he was going to get out. My inside person at the courthouse said he thought he was getting out. Absolutely 100%. So he thought he was getting out, so that's why $7,000 wasn't much money to keep in contact and make sure Bree stays in place. Crazy. Oh, so TS said she had a friend who, close friend who was an MP, and they made her work in the brig in the Marine Corps, and she didn't do too well. Are playing cards allowed, James?
Yes, playing cards are very popular. In fact, they're very popular to buy, and what they'll do is they'll take those cards, rip them up, and use them as bet slips for gambling. Playing cards are one of the easiest things to buy in prison, and so they use them for a variety of things.
What do you mean, bet slips?
Gambling is the most popular activity in prisons everywhere, but you got to keep track, just like a bookie. you got to keep track of your bets. So if someone comes to you and makes a bet, you write it down on a piece of a playing card. That's their bet slip. They got to bring that back to get their money. Their
Is there
money's
a
paid
bug
out in the
problem?
canteen or whatever.
Yes, I will explain. Can you tell us, is there a bug problem like roaches and such?
At the institutions I was at, no. I've heard of them at institutions. They try to get rid of them as quickly as they pop up because, not even officers want to walk around a place that has bugs or rats. Everyone's disgusted by that.
So Brady says she's old. When she changes her phone, I move the data. But there have been times when I didn't, or there are times when the data's lost. I think there's a big argument on that transfer of data if that's the case. Not every time does everything transfer, especially 12 years ago with iPhone, I think. What is an LLC? LLC, again, I'm not an attorney. LLC is a limited liability corporation. It's used for tax purposes. It's used for investment purposes, trust. You're going to put property into a trust and you don't want it in your name. It's really a company owns the product. So you could LLC pretty much anything you wanted. We have a moving trailer for furniture. That's in the LLC name. My dog Roscoe is in the LLC name. The company actually owns Roscoe. I am the company, but I put it in the company name because we use them for marketing. So that way, whatever I spend on marketing with photos and stuff, I can write off. So that's why I did it.
It's about time for me to go.
LLC. What, James?
It's about time for me to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go talk to your
No,
wife.
you're fine. I just got to eat.
You got to eat? Do you work
Yes.
tomorrow?
I don't start my new job with this new company until the 3rd.
Well,
I'm off until then.
Well, go eat. I love you. Thank you for doing
You
this.
have a good night.
I really appreciate it. You too.
Everyone have a good New Year.
Bye. So an LLC is just that. It's an entity. And Florida, every state has them. If you own a company in Florida and you label it in Florida, then it's a domestic company. If you own a company that was, say, Delaware is very popular because of the taxes, and you bring it here, then it's not a domestic. And oftentimes, real estate investors will name an LLC. It's easy for tracking bank records. They'll name the LLC like I live at 2204. So it would be 2204 blank LLC. And then you go get a bank account under that same 2204 blank LLC. And you can control your records. And he is a good son. Thank you very much. He is. He's very thoughtful. James is my baby. And he's very thoughtful. Who owns the LLC we're talking about? Harvey. Harvey is the only owner. There's a manager and an owner. So under an LLC, you can have corporate docs. You're supposed to have a board meeting once a year. You can have an entire board. But this is a single owner LLC, and that is Charlie. In our company, I have Patricia Wilson LLC, and I'm the only owner. And Scott, my business partner, has an LLC. That's how we get paid as corporate owners. And then his is an LLC. Technically, I'm the owner because I have a single person LLC, which is for IRS purposes. We do not get paid together, and then we split it. We split commissions prior at closing. So it's not like the money's hitting my account and then I'm paying someone else. It's not like that. And not how we do our real estate office. But it is a limited liability corporation. There's also, for IRS purposes, S Corps, which is the S corporation, which means all the money runs through the person and the tax structure is a little different. There's no way to know how FL 2518 is structured, because it's private. But I bet Rashbaum knows. So nobody can touch that money in that corporation. That's not true. It could be foreclosed on. It's a taxing entity. So there's a lot of rules with a corporation that you have to maintain or you can lose it. Harvey, again, is the only owner. Charlie is listed as a manager, which is like the office assistant. It means nothing. We could go meet Charlie. How would we meet Charlie? How would we do that, TS? Right? They orchestrated a short sale 2 months before the murder. And then that November, he had his pool relined with gunning. And didn't pay for all of it. There was a lien on the property from what we can tell. So in the official records in Florida, we have sunshine laws. All the documents are open unless you are law enforcement typically or a prosecutor. And you could go in and see there's a what we call a mechanics lien or a construction lien on Ale Hay, Arbor A, and they have not fully paid for the pool. So these are people who don't pay their bills, who allegedly lie on affidavits, who will have their in-laws murdered, and who will disallow grandparents from ever seeing the children. So we're not talking about normal people. And I think that's what's hard for myself. I know it was hard for James when we were talking before he came on. You're not talking about normal people. Normal people don't do these things, at least that we know of. And they do. So I think all of us have to remember that. And the jury pool is only going to take it from their own life experience. And I think because several of the people had family members in law enforcement, that's another reason why he was convicted, because they understand what dirty, nasty people are. Yes, it can. So recently, let's see, something happened. Who was it? It was a local situation. I forget the crook. But they sued them individually and they sued the LLC. Oh, I know I can't say it yet. But it's a real estate broker. And I found her, because that's what I do during the day when I don't have a customer. I found the liens on her company here in town, and the liens went to her as the signer of the loans as well as the LLC that she has. So yes, they can. Because when he goes in to sign, when Harvey or anyone who owns an LLC signs, they still sign their name. They're signing as representative for FL 2518. They're not just, it's still that person. It is only a limited liability. It's not a full liability. No. They could still maintain that as part of their punishment, that they cannot speak to each other, especially while appeals are going on. They cannot speak. When Charlie suspected the IRS was after them at the bump, they didn't have clean hands now. I think we all know that, right? You don't keep that much cash in a safe in your house and have text messages, which was the dumb part. They should have had like one little tiny sheet of paper in the office that this molar removal and capping costs this much cash and this much, but they're texting back and forth like, no, I'll do it for 400. No, I'll do it for 500. That is the dumbest thing I could. Ugh. I was like, why would you? I was sitting there watching in the court, and you could see like this other dental hygienist is in his office, and she goes, they want in and they want caps or whatever they want. And he's like, they have cap. I'll do it for, typically it's $3,500. I'll do it for $1,000. Well, he's taking cash because he's not running anything. He's not keeping it on his books. Sometimes it's called, especially in Florida, I don't know what's called in other states, but it's two sets of books. So there's the cash books that they don't tell anyone, mainly the IRS, and then there's the other books. That's why he can sit on the stand or on those calls and say, Daddy only made $100,000, because that's what's in the IRS books, not what is reality. That's why he said it. I knew it as soon as he said it. He was lying even on the call. Dad only ever made $100,000. Well, we all know you don't get into the Icon or in Brickell, wherever in Miami Beach, only making $100,000 and your wife is your household coordinator. That's just crap. It's just all crap. So we know that's not true. And even then, I haven't you always wondered what Bree's forensic accountant showed up with? Why did he only have to pay $1,500 for that child in child support? Why is that the case? I will say again, I'm not an attorney, but allegedly you would think, night-night tennis, that this would be not a good thing. If you screw your assistant, I'll do it for free. That's what Charlie says, right? There are the same, if you look at Donna and Harvey, they look like siblings. If you look at Wendy and Ben, what's his name? Was it Ben? Ben Graber? They look like relatives. I just watched a documentary on that, on Ancestry, and you find out your daddy's not your daddy. Woo! Graber but Wendy, I said that, have that weird line down their nose. I try to do like where I put one photo on top of the other and get it to match, but I don't have the right size photo of Wendy, but I would love to do that. Graber goes by Ben. Stop it. I would bet you. All right, I still think there's a lot going on in that family that we don't know about. They are pros about lying. You do not end up on the 16th floor of that condo because you make $100,000 a year. It just doesn't happen. And they don't have a lot of investment properties either. It doesn't happen. That doesn't mean Harvey knows it. Harvey doesn't have to know. I'm the one that, like, in my head, I'm like, oh, they look, ooh. Why else would he come out? Ooh, they don't look alike. Harvey doesn't have to know. I mean, we all know he's not the smartest tool in the shed in this whole family. He's not. Right? I think so too. There's a big Pandora's box. There's so many Facebook groups on Ancestry on finding out your dad's not your dad. It's crazy land. Ben Graber is the OBGYN orgasm specialist that came out and said that he was really, really good lifelong friends with Adelsons, but then it turns out he hadn't talked to them in 20 years. He wrote an op-ed in the Tallahassee Democrat, which is our local paper. It's a Gannett paper, which owns USA Today. And he came out and said, there's no way Donna is guilty. And he basically iterated Charlie Adelson's defense of the double extortion, which the poor man probably had to leave town after that because he was just completely humiliated. And Wendy named her firstborn Benjamin. Do you think she knows? I don't think she knows. Because I think you could tell she had a fondness for Harvey, that when she was on the stand and she talked about getting him a gift. I think she has a fondness for him that she doesn't have for anyone else. Wendy is short too. Wendy is not a tall woman. She just wears heels all the time. There was also a Benjamin on the Markel side. Well, it's a Jewish name. I mean, it is. Benjamin Graber was paid. I think he just, it's like the girls that fall in love with the guys in prison. They just want to be part of something, maybe. They're so lonely. I mean, think about it. Who's here watch I can't watch it though. You know, those 600-pound life. And there's inevitably a skinny white guy feeding this woman till she busts. You know, they just want some control over their life that they don't normally have. DNA history on Ancestry will open up a Pandora's box. You gotta know. So my stepson, my husband's son, was adopted at birth, and he just recently found his biological father and is up in the biological father's state, spending time with him. So far that's turning out well. But we have had other situations in our family, my immediate family, where it did not turn out well. When they went to go find the parent and the mother rejected them, and it just didn't end well at all. Do you think Donna influenced Wendy to name her son Benjamin? Wendy and Harvey don't know. Only Donna and Benji. I think Benji is the dad. I think she does not look anything like the rest of the family. Now, I have seen photos of, because I did a little family tree of the Adelsons, of Donna's brother, and she doesn't look like him. And you know whoever here is in medicine, when a baby is born, they look like the father. It's part of our evolutionary cycle, so that the father knows the child is his. I don't think. There's older photos of Ben Graber that even look more like Wendy at her age. He likes the way he looks, even though I think he's scummy, but it's just my personal opinion. I think Harvey, our team, Daddy's little girl, Harvey wouldn't murder for his son. I don't think so either. Well, he may have committed some sort of mortgage fraud for his son. I think Harvey has, maybe he knows where the bodies are buried in this family. I don't know. But they're all dirty. There's nothing, I used to feel for Harvey. I don't anymore. I feel like Harvey is just as much of a problem as the rest of them. Right? I don't believe he was a passive victim. In the beginning, I really did. I thought he was completely passive and been told after the fact, not now. Not now. If you read, Benjamin is the name of Wendy's good friend. Could be someone from Brandeis. Boy, she is all in on that Brandeis University. The wrinkles on either side of the nose, right? That's what I think. I could be wrong. I'll apologize while they're in prison. But, right? Ben Graber, he's like, I'm an orgasm expert. Really, Ben? How? How is this possible? Harvey was in on his arrest, but even if Harvey didn't know the original plan, he knew then, and then he continued to participate in the plan. So I think there's going to be, I think it was very smart of the prosecution to go back to 2012 and get that phone data. No one has those thick lips like Wendy. In Graber's side, they do. There is a grandchild on Graber's side that to me looks just like Wendy Adelson. So I don't know how old the child is. To me, she's a child. She's younger than me. But she has long hair. And if you go look, there's a lot more similarities than Charlie or Robert. They are enmeshed. Like, I thought my first ex-in-laws were a little on the odd side, but this is crazy. I don't know what that means. I'm kind of scared. That nose thing is what makes them think he's the dad. That's not a common trait. And the chin is different on Ben Graber and Wendy. She may have had the filler on her lips. I don't know if you do Botox on her lips. I don't know. But even in the beginning, if you look back at her school age, there's a few photos I found of Wendy's school age. Her lips were thicker than the rest of the Adelsons. She has a lot of Botox. I just find nothing redeeming about her. So if somebody wants to put botulism into her skin, more power to her. I mean, I thought about it. I have this spot right here. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do that. But then I go back to Patty's botulism. Maybe not. I don't know. It's just right here. Oh, my mom had it too, so maybe I'll keep it just because of my mom. But it's odd. So, any other questions? Any other chats? Wendy without her hair is a 5, and I think that hair is unkept. Like my hair is unkept today because I was out in the wind. It's very windy and breezy here recently, but I think that unkept long hair at her age is kind of not attractive. And she is used. You would think she was in real estate, okay, people? That woman is literally used that same profile photo since she was here at FSU. It's like 14 years. You don't look like that now, dear. You don't. You don't look like that. Your hair looks thinner. Your face is more drawn. You've aged. Your skin is very not good. Like her skin is kind of sallow. Like use some vitamin C under there or something. Her hair is overprocessed. So is mine. But I have gray hair and I had to get a perm. Otherwise it wouldn't do anything. Aw, bless it. It's just this right here, like right here, people. When you do that, it seems a little intense. People are like, God, I'm already a bitch. What are they thinking? She does not have her parents' nose. She could have a grandparent nose. I've never found a grandparent photo. But I have found an uncle photo. Oh, well, thank you. You know, maybe you all can help me. But gray hair really seems to fall out a hell of a lot more than non-gray hair. I really try to take care of it. But I have a beauty tip real quick, and then I'll go. So my sister works for Rite Aid, and she is the buyer for all their health and beauty. And she gave me a container of it said mask on it. I could not see. This eye is all but blind right now. So I have very thick glasses. And I couldn't see. So I thought it was a face mask. In the shower, taking my shower. And I was out of my other face mask, which I was using, which was that multi-level marketing stuff. Rodan and Fields. And so I was out of that and I was like, oh, I'll use this. So I obviously can't see in the shower. Put it on my face. Oh, it was really nice. Smelled good. I was like, this is nice stuff. Got out of the shower, put my glasses on. It was hair mask. But I'm telling you, an off-label tip. If you have really dry skin, that crap was amazing. And it's a big tub. It's called Eli. I'll get the label. But it's L'Oreal. And it's a white jar with orange and pink letters that aren't easily readable, like obviously. But I put it on my face. It cured. Like I had so much dryness, not anymore. And so I put it on the shower. Then I was like, I'm doing this again. So I put it on again out of the shower, and I didn't even wipe it off. And then I put my makeup on, smooth as silk. Couldn't believe it. So I called my sister. I'm like, I don't know if you want to tell L'Oreal. She's the buyer for all of the Rite Aids. I don't know if you want to tell them, but this on your skin is amazing. On your feet, amazing stuff. So hair mask, put it on your face. See what happens. It was amazing. I was like, it was a good mistake to have done. Your hair is gray too. Yeah. I let my hair go gray I've been with Scott, my business partner, 7.5 years. So about 7.5 years ago, it just wouldn't dye red anymore. It used to be bright red and it wouldn't hold because of the gray. So I let it go. And luckily I have a really nice gray spot here and here. So it looks kind of cool. I'm doing this wrong because I'm backwards, but it looks kind of cool with my calyx. So that's why I did it. Thank you, Yank. Thanks, guys, for participating. So I'm not just talking to myself. But if you need really dry skin on your face, try hair mask. I use conditioner 2 times in the shower instead of shampoo. I only wash my hair every 4 days. I only wash it every 4 days. So I wear a shower cap, which I'll tell you one more quick story. So we went to Universal this past weekend for Christmas. My daughter's the oldest, and then my middle son, Alex, was with me. And it was misty and rainy, and people are walking around with ponchos, and I can't believe security at Universal lets you bring in umbrellas, they let you bring in drinks, they let you bring in food. I was completely shocked. Where I'm from in Hershey Park, it would never have happened. It just doesn't happen. So they let you bring in all this stuff, and I'm like, ponchos? I only need to cover my hair. So I wear a shower cap because I only wash it every 4 days. So I was like, I know what I'm doing tomorrow because it was supposed to rain on Monday, which was Christmas Day. It's like 80% chance. So I brought the shower cap. So I brought the shower cap to Universal. And I said something to my daughter. I said, well, I don't need a poncho. I'm buying a shower cap. I'm bringing my shower cap. They thought I was joking. So it starts to rain, and I just needed to cover up the dew because I love my hair, and I work hard on it, and so I wore a shower cap. And my son was like, I can't believe you just did that. I'm like, I think it's brilliant. I look like Carol Burnett. Not really. But the whole idea of like, why wear a poncho where you kind of feel like you're in a sauna when you could just have a shower cap on and go about your business? There was one ride they made me take it off. So I took it off, put it away. I thought it was funny. But, oh, thanks, Brady. Very nice. Very nice. But if you're out in the rain, ladies, and you've done your hair, put on a shower cap. It works. It worked for me. It was waterproof. So funny. My kids did not appreciate it, but it was funny. I'm 42. My dad didn't have any gray. My dad had white hair. So I'm backwards, right? So this side is white, and in the back is white, just like my dad's. I have his hair. You can hear my kids. Oh, my son was not having it. My son is 6'5" and redhead, red beard, and he was like, I can't believe you freaking did that. And my daughter's 34, redhead, short, and she just laughed. She thought it was funny. And James is also kind of on the short side. He's like 5'7" and dark hair. So I have 2 lefties. James and Molly are left-handed, and then a redhead, and then 2 redheads and a brunette. But I wanted to protect, because I used so much hairspray, it would have just been a muddy mess. I was paying my own way. So it's not like, what are they going to say? I was paying my own way. I paid for my own hotel room. It was fine. But anyway, have a great night. If I don't see you or talk to you, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful New Year. I hope you all stay as sober as possible and don't drink and drive, because I don't drink anymore. Not that I'm religious about it, but I don't want to end up on a billboard being like, Patty Wilson is a drunk. So I just decided to stop drinking, and so I don't. So anyway, have a great one. Happy New Year. Find a word. If you don't do resolutions, find a word to like kind of ground you and put you in place. So you too, everybody. So sweet. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy New Year.